This happened to me when I was only 8. Even though I've moved away from where it happened, the fear still trails me like a shadow. I used to live in a very old village in Morocco with my parents and 4 siblings. The houses were made of clay, bricks and wood, all packed together as if huddling for warmth. During the warm summer nights, we slept on the rooftops like many others in the village. Sometimes, we would wave at our neighbors and chat a bit. There was no electricity back then, which made it perfect for stargazing. I slept next to my older brother, listening to the stories. He used to tell us scary stories about jinns, saying that they were creatures with horns and hooves, living among us in the village and watching us all the time. Only kids can see them. He would give us a spooky gaze and tell us how they looked like. They were tall, made of smokeless fire with long tail and claws. What do they want from us? My little sister would ask as she pulled her sheet up to her chin. First, they leave a mark on your body, my brother continued as if explaining his favorite recipe. Then, they lurk around until you are old. When you turn 60, they come back to haunt you. There was a man in our village who had lost his mind the day he turned 60. He ate his own waste, talked to himself, ran from an invisible thing shouting, "Go away! Leave me alone!" One night, he woke up from a nightmare, grabbed a kitchen knife and killed his wife and 2 daughters. He ate the livers raw and then pushed the knife into his own heart. His name was Abdul. My brother explained that he was marked by a jinn when he was 7. The stories scared me so much that I would wet my bed, but somehow I enjoyed listening to them. One summer night, we were on the rooftop watching the stars when my mom gave us watermelon to cool down. I ate too much, not knowing the consequences would be scarier than having to go to the bathroom alone at midnight. I had already gone twice, waking my mom each time. She grew tired and said that I had to go alone next time. It was quiet except for the occasional chirp of crickets. I fell asleep only to wake up an hour later needing to pee again. The toilet was downstairs in the backyard and I didn't have the courage to go alone. I tried going back to sleep but couldn't. I finally got up and decided to go. But before I go down the stairs, something caught my eyes. There was a figure on one of the rooftops in the distance, standing still with wide open legs facing my direction. It looked like a man, but too tall with long legs and arms. It was dark and I couldn't see well. At first, I thought he was looking elsewhere, but then it suddenly reached a hand towards the sky and started waving at me. I ran back to my bed and crept under my sheet shaking. After what felt like an hour, I couldn't resist and got up again. I cautiously looked. There was no sign of the man anywhere. Maybe I had imagined it. I needed to stop listening to my brother's stories. I turned on the lanterns and climbed down the stairs. The thought of jinns made me feel I was being watched. I ran to the toilet and closed the door behind, gasping. Just as I wanted to relieve myself, I heard footsteps approaching. They didn't sound human. They were hooves, as if a horse was in our backyard. The footsteps got closer and closer until they stopped just outside the toilet. I wanted to scream for my mom, but my voice was trapped in my throat. Although I had locked the door, I didn't feel safe. There was a big gap under the door, so I stooped and looked. but there was no one on the other side, only darkness. I startled by a knock on the door. "Who is it? Rahim, is that you?" "Stop it! It's not funny!" And it stopped. But I wish it hadn't, because the silence was now even scarier. I held my breath and leaned to look outside through the door cracks, but felt something wrapped around my ankles. I looked down and froze. A pair of black hands crept from under the toilet door and grabbed my feet. They were not human hands. They were black and bony with long claws. They pulled me with all their force. I fell hard on my back, grabbing anything I could to resist. I screamed as loud as I could, hoping it would wake my family. My feet were now outside and I felt something sharp biting into my flesh. I screamed in agony. I heard my family answering my pleas, running down the stairs. Whatever was on the other side let go of me and galloped away. A minute later, I was in my mother's arms crying. I had wet my trousers and my right ankle was bruised. My mom calmed me down that I probably had a nightmare, sleepwalked and bumped into something. She assured me that the bruise will disappear after a while. She was right about bruises. They don't last long, they heal. But mine didn't. It stayed. It's been 52 years since that night and the mark is still visible on my ankle. 5 minutes past midnight and I'm sitting alone in my house, trembling with fear as I write this. I have every right to be afraid because I turned 60 today and I can already feel someone's presence in the house. Someone I have met before. An old friend.